Every single day for 6 years, I would spend between 6 to 10 hours gambling. When I did the math, it turned out that I had wasted 2 years worth of productive 24-hour days between the ages of 18 and 24. I'm here to tell you that if you want to recover from a gambling addiction, there's a way to do it. You don't have to keep spending your days wondering where you're going to get money to make that next bet, whether or not you'll be able to afford rent from winning or losing a bet that you have no control over. You can stop lying, you can stop hiding, and you can stop running from the truth. If you are out there and you're struggling with a gambling addiction, this video here is going to be a step-by-step guide on how you can get the help that you need to live a happier and healthier life. My name is Rob, and I'm a recovering compulsive gambler. I made my last bet on November the 12th of 2022. Since then, it's become my personal mission to help you to recover from a gambling addiction faster than I did, by posting videos online and sharing what's working for me in my recovery journey. If gambling addiction is something that's been bringing you down in life, or you're just interested in learning more about it, smash that subscribe button. I'd love to have you join our community and stay up to date on the content that I create here. Constantly, I was looking to get that rush, that thrill that came from gambling faster and faster and faster. And I would bet more money along the way to get that same thrill. If you can relate to this, this is going to be the video for you. I'm going to lay it all out in sections, and I'm going to highlight them down below so that you can skip around the video to where you need assistance. If you want to recover from a gambling addiction, I recommend that you watch this video all the way through, because I'm going to be talking about exactly what's working for me and why I'm doing what I do. We're seeing a drastic rise right now in the number of people who are getting addicted to gambling because more people have been given access to gambling. It's no surprise that over the last 3 years, you've become 30% more likely to develop a gambling addiction in the United States, and it's a very dangerous path because we're seeing an increase in the amount of people gambling, but not an increase in the resources to help people who are struggling. It's because approximately 86% of online gambling profits come from 5% of the players, the addicted players. So it's really important that if you're struggling with a gambling addiction, you have to recognize that the system that's out there right now is against you. You need to be learning constantly about your urges, about who you are as a person, so that you can stay away from something that's built for you to lose. You are not going to make money in the long-term gambling. You're only going to make your life worse if you keep going back to something that's bringing you pain in hopes that one day it will bring you pleasure. What might have started out as a really fun habit, a really fun time with friends, if it's morphed into anything like my experience did, it's not worth continuing. I was miserable. I was anxious, depressed, stressed, and broke. Now without gambling, I have peace in my life. I would say that upwards of 90% of the problems that I was experiencing in my life when I was gambling were caused by gambling. And without that, life is peaceful, and 90% of my problems are gone. I want to see every single person that watches this video live a happier life, and I really truly hope that what I talk about today will make that difference for you. When I was gambling, I was in absolute misery. My life fully revolved around the next bet, and I could only think about that. I remember that I went to Australia. I studied in Sydney for a semester during college, and after about a 24-hour trip, I went directly to the casino. I didn't meet my classmates until the day after because as soon as I arrived in Sydney, which was at 5 in the morning, I took off to play poker. I was 19 years old at the time, and so I wasn't able to legally gamble in the United States, and so I was very excited to finally be able to play poker somewhere that wasn't a home game. The next couple months and then the years that would follow, gambling just every single day on whatever I could get my hands on. Started off as daily fantasy sports contests for me, then sports betting, then poker, then casino games, slot machines in the end. It was everything. If you feel like you're alone right now, just know that you're not. And I really do hope you get as much value out of this video as I've gotten from making it. Before we dive into the recovery process and the steps that you'll be taking to get your life back on track, let's first understand what gambling addiction truly is. Gambling addiction, also known as compulsive gambling or gambling disorder, is a condition where people cannot control their urge to gamble, even if it leads to negative consequences in their life. It's crucial to recognize the signs, such as a preoccupation with gambling, unsuccessful attempts to cut back on gambling, and jeopardizing relationships or financial stability in favor of continuing to place bets. Now, why would anyone ever get addicted to gambling? Because if you aren't a gambling addict, you might be wondering why that's even possible in the first place. Well, gambling triggers the brain's reward system the same as drugs or alcohol, releasing chemicals like dopamine that make you feel good. But in some people, this can lead to an unhealthy cycle where they chase those pleasurable feelings by gambling more and more and betting larger amounts. Factors like genetic predisposition, environmental influences, and mental health issues can all contribute to the development of a gambling addiction. Now that we have the basics covered, let's talk about the steps that you can take to live a better life. If you're ready to break free from gambling addiction, the very first step is admitting that you need to quit. After that, it's seeking out help. Reach out to a mental health professional or a counselor who specializes in addiction. That's where I started. Finding a professional is always better than taking your advice from a kid on YouTube, no offense taken, and they may be able to help you work through the underlying conditions that sent you to gamble. Maybe you're using gambling as an escape from your reality. Maybe gambling is what's providing all of the meaning in your life. That's what happened to me. When you sit down and talk through things, you're going to find a lot more clarity in the situation to inform a better decision-making process. Now, while I think that professional therapy will provide a ton of value, there is nothing like going to a support group meeting. These meetings are where you're going to meet people who understand what you're going through because they're going through it themselves as recovering addicts, and they've been working through the recovery process as well for a while now. Before I went to these meetings, I thought it would be just like it was on TV. A dark, dingy room in some basement where everyone would be super depressing and force you into beliefs that you don't necessarily share. The reality is the complete opposite. On a weekly basis now, I get to share laughter and tears with people that I now consider to be my friends as we reflect on the damage that gambling's caused in our lives, but also the joy that quitting has brought into our lives. There's a duality to it, and it really does get better on the other side. There's nothing more valuable to the human spirit than feeling understood and accepted within your community. You gain exactly this by attending group meetings. These group meetings function by following the 12-step program, where you're constantly working on not only your ability to stop gambling, but also slowly becoming the version of yourself that you've always wanted to become. If your end goal is to live a life without the chaos of gambling, there is absolutely nothing better for you than going to these group meetings to get on the right path. Remember, asking for help is a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness. Nothing will change unless you take the initiative to finally take action and change your life. No one's going to come save you have to do it yourself. Recovery is a journey, and there's several important aspects to work on after the initial steps are finally taken. Firstly, it's essential to establish a support network of friends, family, and professionals who can guide you through tough times and help you to navigate this process. Developing healthier coping mechanisms to deal with stress and emotions is also crucial. No longer do you need to turn to gambling every time you get upset. Financial management is also key. Creating a budget and seeking financial advice will help you to regain control over your finances. In my case specifically, my family actually helps me to manage my finances, and I only carry the amount of cash that I would need on a weekly basis so that I'm not tempted to spend the rest, given that the majority of my gambling happened online as a direct result of having access to that money. Additionally, finding new hobbies and interests that bring joy and fulfillment in your life will redirect your focus away from gambling and towards something productive and enjoyable. If you used to spend 8 hours a day gambling, you're going to need to find 8 hours of activity in your day to substitute. You may not get that same rush from those activities that you did from winning big gambling or anticipating a big event, but you also won't have to suffer the lows of borrowing money to pay down debts, lying to your family, or giving back your previous winnings after having a win. Though the thrills will begin to level out, you'll come to find that your life is much more peaceful and enjoyable without the bet. Now, along the way, urges to gamble are normal during the recovery process, but it's important to have strategies to cope with them ahead of time. Practice mindfulness and grounding techniques to stay present in the moment, and distract yourself with activities that you enjoy or engage in physical exercise to release those endorphins. Along the same lines of distraction, a tip that I learned that I found to be really effective is called the delay method. When you feel an urge to gamble, don't try to fight it directly. Tell yourself, okay, I'll gamble, but I'll do it an hour from now. Because once you let that hour go by, the power of that urge will fade. Gambling urges are really powerful, yet they're incredibly brief. If you're able to put some time between the thought and the action, you're giving yourself a much better chance to make the decision that'll be best for you. Consider this delay method to be like a cooling off period from your thoughts that may have once brought you down. Having an emergency contact or a crisis plan can be immensely helpful for those tough moments. And remember, setbacks can happen, so don't be too hard on yourself if something goes wrong. Use them as learning opportunities and keep moving forward. So, what's the ultimate goal of recovering from a gambling addiction? Well, it's about reclaiming control of your life and finding a healthier balance. It's about building relationships, restoring financial stability, and nurturing your mental well-being, all things that we were neglecting when we were in action. It's about rediscovering joy and purpose and self-worth beyond the confines of gambling. Remember, you're not defined by your past struggles, and you have the power to shape your future. You are more than just a bet. You're more than a number, and you can find a passion in your life. As we wrap up today's video, I want to remind you that recovery from gambling addiction is absolutely possible. It takes time, effort, and a strong support system, but you can do it. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might benefit from what we talked about today. You're not alone on this journey towards recovery. There are millions of people out there who are battling this addiction right now, and there's millions of people out there that will overcome it. But you need to be patient, because all of this, it all happens one day at a time.